What's up, horror fans? Pete here from the Lassercast, and I'm here with my brother-in-arms, Mr. Dr. Zayas God, Danny Torkel. Danny, we got a lot of faces with us tonight, don't we?
Very much so. Very
Yeah.
excited.
And the reason why we have so many people on the show today is because we are going to be discussing Halloween Ends, and we're going to be talking about the 2022 Hellraiser. And so I got a feeling that there's going to be some conflicting opinions on here, but we're all going to be nice and civil. We have some awesome horror authors on the show. You guys are probably familiar with a lot of them, but I'm just going to do a little introduction real quick. And I got a question for each of you when I introduce you guys. You ready? Out of these two franchises, which one have you seen first? Have you seen the Halloween franchise first, or Hellraiser? And what was your first movie? I got a feeling it's going to be a lot of the same answer, but let's see. For me, just to start us off, I'm going to say that Halloween was the first one for me, and my first Halloween movie was Halloween H2O. All right, so let's get the ball rolling. Right next to Danny is another Danny. That's Daniel. Daniel Barnett, and he is the author of the Nightmare Land Chronicles. Daniel, what was your first movie in these franchises?
Oh man, that's tough because it was so long ago. It kind of blends together. I think I probably saw Halloween first, but I don't know. I don't know anymore.
There's so many of them, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, down there is a woman whose interview should be up on our channel, but it's not up yet. It's coming this week. Miss Megan Stockton, author of Ethic, and she's got Blue Jay coming out. Megan, what about you? What's your answer for the question?
I think I remember seeing Hellraiser first, but it would have been pretty close with the original Halloween. It's been a long time ago, but
Nice.
I think my earlier memory would be the original Hellraiser.
Okay, wow. All right, these answers are not lining up so far. Okay. And then last but not least is my friend Josh McMillan. Josh has written the shit. I just forgot the fucking title. Your book, Josh. Tell me real quick. That's out right now.
The Best of Intentions.
Best of Intentions. Thank you so much. And he's got a book coming out very soon called The Death House. Josh, I have a feeling I know your answer, but what is it?
The franchise would be Halloween, but the first film in that franchise that I saw would be the original Halloween 2.
Okay. Nice. All right, cool. So a little mixed bag. Very cool. Danny, did you say which one you saw first?
No, I think I kind of feel like Daniel. It's been so long at this point. I think I remember the original Halloween being the first one that I remember seeing TV commercials for Halloween 4 and 5. And I think that's what motivated me to go and see the original. And I definitely saw Halloween before Hellraiser. But yeah, so I think it's definitely the first Halloween is probably the first one I ever saw.
Nice. Okay. All right. Cool. So now there's 13 films in the franchise, and we have the most recent one, Halloween Ends. It's kind of divisive. A lot of the response I see on Twitter is like, I don't know what to think about this movie. I need to see it again. Or people say it's really good. I've seen a couple of people dislike it. I just want to get your first reactions real quick, but let's go the opposite way this time. So, Josh, how do you feel about Halloween Ends?
So, I've seen the movie 3 times now.
Holy shit, okay.
Yeah. So I watched it on the Thursday night preview night, and I went in knowing what the story was. I was very prepared for the Corey character.
Oh, okay.
So at the end of my first viewing, I didn't know what to think. I was very disappointed. But then upon rewatching and seeing what they were doing, overall thoughts, I mean, it's not the best in the franchise, but I don't think it's the worst of the franchise. I wish that they would have handled certain things differently.
Okay. So it's not the best, it's not the worst, but you enjoyed it. You saw it 3 freaking times.
Yeah, I've watched it 3 times, yeah.
Dang, all right, cool. And Halloween is your favorite franchise, right? Horror franchise?
Yes. Franchise-wise, yes. Favorite film of all time, it's a toss-up between the original Halloween or Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, yeah.
Nice. Okay, man. Well, all right, Megan, what about you? How'd you feel about Halloween Ends?
I've only watched it once so far, but I'd like to watch it again because there were a lot of like Easter eggs I picked up on, and I love that kind of thing. But I would honestly first, like my gut reaction, I didn't know about the Corey character going into it. I missed that somehow, so that was a surprise. I would be tempted to put it in my top 3 of the franchise, actually.
Whoa.
But I need to rewatch to decide.
Okay. All right. Daniel, what about you, my man?
I should ask, is this spoilery? Is this a spoiler chat, or is this a...
Very good question. I say
I
let's
think we
spoil
can
the shit
go-
out of it.
I think we can go with spoilers. It's been out since last Thursday. Most people have watched it on Peacock, and we'll put a spoiler disclaimer, in the title of the video. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I wasn't a fan personally. I think that I can after like sitting on it for a while, I feel like I can kind of know what they're going for, but I think that they like narratively speaking, structurally speaking, Corey was too much of a curveball to introduce into like an act 3 of a trilogy.
Mhm.
And I think that if there was supposed to be some communication of there being like a supernatural sort of passing on of the torch to him when Michael looks into his eyes in the sewer, that was not handled well enough for it to work. And it felt like a movie where the first 4/5 of it were irrelevant to the last fifth. And I mean, it's it's a good time. I think there's some fun kills in it. I just don't know if there's also not a bit of an identity crisis going on with it as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no. I kind of feel like that way for the trilogy in general. But I wanted to hear if the Daniels agree with each other. I'm having a feeling my Daniel doesn't. You're my Daniel now.
This is one of those movies where I feel like my opinion is going to just fly back and forth every time I watch it. My initial gut reaction walking out of the theater Thursday night was, I think I kind of loved it a little bit, and I put it like my initial gut reaction was to say it was the best of the new trilogy. My favorite, not necessarily my favorite movies, but I love this franchise the most when it takes just the biggest, wildest swings. And like, I'm the biggest Halloween 6 defender that I know, because cults are scary, and it's the scariest Michael that we've had in like probably since the first one. I love Halloween Season of the Witch, and believe it or not, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 has grown on me over the years. So like when this franchise just goes way out there, I tend to like it more, and I really enjoyed the Corey character arc. And then the more I've thought about it since Thursday, like every day, I feel like it's gotten a little bit less and a little bit less. And now I'm like, I'm almost envious of Josh for having watched it 3 times, because I really want to rewatch it. But gut reaction was that I did really like it. I did turn to my son in the middle of the movies, and almost like Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park, I was like, there is going to be Michael Myers in this Halloween movie.
Right.
But yeah, that was my gut reaction to it walking out of the theater. To me, this, I liked Halloween 2018. I did not like Halloween Kills almost at all. So this was just like what Daniel said. It's just a very bizarrely written trilogy. Like it almost feels like the new Star Wars movies, where just but what's baffling is there's one filmmaker set behind these, so you feel like there'd be like a more tied together vision. But yeah.
Well, here's the deal. It sounds like most people are in favor, and then like Daniel didn't like it that much. Danny, you're kind of like waffling, but you're more towards it. And then for me, I am leaning more towards not liking it. I saw this one tweet today that was saying Thomas E. Staples wrote, "It's just 2 solid hours of people you don't like doing stuff you don't care about," right? And I think that when I look at this movie and I look at this trilogy as a whole, I'm like, okay, what are they trying to say with this trilogy? Because, like you just said, Danny, it's like the same filmmakers, the same writers, the same directors for the whole trilogy, right? So you figure to be like consistent, there'd be some kind of message going across 3 films, but it's like I don't really know what they're trying to say about Michael Myers. Is it like he's this evil that like has haunted this town essentially, and he's more than a person? It's like what makes this trilogy better in their eyes versus like the original, 1 and 2, and then 4, 5, and 6. I know it's not a trilogy, but like that series, or like the Rob Zombie trilogy. So like Josh, I was going to ask you, as a guy who's like a big fan of this franchise, right? Is there one particular timeline that you like the most out of these Halloween movies?
I think the most solid timeline is the original Halloween 2, and then I would even throw H2O in there
Okay.
and just leave it as a trilogy there.
Yeah.
Um, but with some reworking and some retooling, what they were doing with this new trilogy tacked on to the 78 original, I think they struck out with every film. Okay, even that 2018 original, Laurie was too much of a Sarah Connor character. The Laurie
Mhm.
Strode that we knew in 78, I firmly believe that she would have dealt with her trauma the way that she did in H2O. She wouldn't have sequestered herself off into this house, and turned it into a trap. I think she would have gone heavily into drug and drink, maybe, but it would have been more along the H2O line. Um, I, yeah, it's so that whole Laurie Strode story in the 2018, the way that they handled her character was what I hated the most. I loved Laurie in Halloween Ends. I loved
Mhm.
her character in the movie. She was my favorite part of the movie.
Okay.
But well, until the end, I didn't like the very very end of it. But with some reworking and some retooling, this David Gordon Green trilogy could have been the best Halloween. I mean, it could have surpassed the original.
Yeah.
But they swung for some fences, and like I said, they struck out in each movie. Halloween Kills, I know, Daniel, you didn't like it. I personally didn't mind it. I loved seeing Michael out on an actual rampage. I would be all for a movie from beginning to end, 2 hours of just following Michael killing people. However, when you stop 3/4 of the way through the movie to give us a 20-minute, sequence in a hospital where a 4-foot man is mistaken for 6-foot Michael Myers,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Right.
that they swung and they struck out with that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about taking some of the elements from Ends, cut out that hospital segment of Kills, combine the two, you've got a solid duology.
Right. And
You
you
know
know
what
what's
I
the
mean?
craziest thing about that, Josh, is that when they had the idea for this series, it was just 2 movies. They had an idea
Yeah.
for 2 movies. And then they filmed Halloween 2018, and they said they were going to make it into a trilogy. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's an awesome suggestion, man.
And to not take up too much of the time, I'm 100% for what they were trying to do with the Corey character.
Okay.
The shape of evil changing shape. Look at what they did at the end of Halloween 4 with Jamie Lloyd. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, even then, if you look at Halloween 1, 2, and then 4, that's a complete story. It's full circle. At the end, the shape of evil changes shape to now this little girl, and Dr. Loomis is about to kill her. You know,
Yeah.
um, then you follow that up with something like a Corey story, and it makes sense. It's not. Michael is such an enigma that we don't know what drives him. We should never know what drives him. But what does drive him, we can see it take on the shape of another person, or take shape or take form in another shape, right? So I think it would have worked really well, and I think a lot of fans would have been for it. But it needs to be handled correctly, and the way that they did it, it's like it was weird. Like Christopher Nelson came out saying Christopher Nelson did the makeup effects for this new trilogy, and he even came out before the movie was released and said it's a little weird, you know.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the best way to describe the movie is weird,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but weird can be good.
Yeah.
I just think a lot of people feel like they struck out with it.
Well,
I just want to
Megan,
pick up on
Oh, go
something
ahead.
Josh just said, because with the Corey character, I was digging the whole thing. I loved where they were going with it. And I even liked the idea. And I would have been like super impressed and like called the director ballsy as hell if they ended the movie with him stabbing himself in the neck and Allison walking in thinking her mother did it. And like either Allison killing Laurie or just Michael never coming back into the movie at that point. I would have been like, holy shit, what a dark ending.
Yeah.
And the part, or my other idea would have been to have he stabs himself in the neck. You go with the Michael versus Laurie ending. Michael goes into the grinder. Good, that's done. And somehow, hey, if the cop in the first movie can get stabbed in the neck and live, have it that Corey is somehow still alive. And then you just end it with that idea that maybe evil will live on in Corey. But for Michael to come back and then kill Corey after everything we've been through for the 90, what was it, 2 hours almost, that part of the ending I felt kind of betrayed the rest of the movie. So that's where like this was like walking out of the movie theater, really liked it. Now I've had 3 days to think about it, and I'm starting to pick on things that I don't like. In many ways, this movie feels like Scream 2022, where I loved it when I walked out of the theater, and then every day since then, my opinion of it has gone slightly down to where I still like it, but it's just not as high in my esteem as it was when I walked out of the movie theater.
Yeah. Well, it's real interesting. Oh yeah, just I was gonna say it's real interesting that like everyone said that they liked it, but they're like, oh, I would change this or I would do this like a little bit differently. So it's like they kind of liked it, and Daniel, you even kind of said it's like a fun ride. There's good kills, but it's like it sounds like there's kind of overall story problems. And for one of my favorite story writers, Megan, I was gonna say, would you change anything about this movie?
I mean, probably, but I feel like if you look at the trilogy almost like separately.
Yeah.
It's almost like in the first movie, we're focused more on Michael, and he is the shape, so that's a physical manifestation of evil. And then you've got the second one where, like they kill that, that random escapee thinking it's Michael. They don't even know what they're afraid of. So there you've got just fear itself as being evil and that mob mentality. And then the third one is the idea that past trauma, because, that's what happened when Corey kind of locked eyes with Michael, is he had all his past trauma opened him up to that hatred. And honestly, it looked like the same thing may have happened with Laurie at the end. I think there was even a mask laying on her table. I don't remember. I'd have to watch it again. Little things like that, just the idea that there are different ways that we can, open ourselves up to evil. So looking at them separately, I think it's fine. It wasn't cohesive as a trilogy. I probably, like Josh said, really could have done away with most of the second movie if you wanted it to actually blend together as a trilogy a little bit better.
Yeah.
But I like that he kind of almost became like a martyr. That's how they put their fear and hatred to rest, as they got rid of him. Mm-hmm. Even though at that point had he bothered anybody since the last movie? He hadn't even done anything. So
well, he killed that one cop with Corey, right? And then he like killed the doctor and his nurse girlfriend. Like he kind of helped kill them. Yeah. But that was with Corey. I get it. Yeah. Josh, I'm sorry I cut you off before. What were you gonna say, man?
So, well, now there's two things that I like to touch on. One, what Megan was talking about at the end, how it looked like Lori when she was seeing her past trauma and all that, much like Corey did earlier. Have you guys heard what one of the original endings was going to be?
No.
This was not filmed, but the one of the original endings, well, parts of it was filmed, because part of the conversation between Allison and Lori, when Allison is saying it was Corey and all of this and that at the end of the movie, this is an ADR conversation between Lori and Allison in this original ending, where Lori takes Michael's body with the mask still on to a funeral home and cremates his body. All right,
Okay.
gets rid of the evil. This is after they bleed him. He's already dead, but they've already had that flashback with the trauma. And supposedly, at the end of the movie, when Hawkins comes and talks with her, and they talk about the cherry blossoms, after that was when Allison was gonna come, and they're gonna be sitting across from each other at a table. And while they were talking, Lori was going to attack Allison.
What?
Yeah. And
Okay.
yeah, they nixed this because
Yeah.
everybody else knew that was bullshit. Okay,
Yeah.
but apparently that was one of the supposed endings. Now, going back to you, Daniel, earlier when you were talking about, okay, what if they did this with Corey? Um, so what if, so Corey and Michael, they killed this cop together. Okay, Corey, show me how to do it. Michael does it. He looks like he's like ejaculating in his coveralls and powering up, and then he does, man.
No, he
I'm
does.
not wrong.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they go and they kill the doctor and the nurse, and Michael seems to be getting stronger.
Right.
Michael follows Corey. When Corey goes with Allison, he takes Allison home, and Allison and him go upstairs. Lori pulls up and sees them walking up the stairs.
Right.
Who's standing beside the tree? Michael.
Michael.
Why didn't they have their fight right then and there?
Because then there'd be
And
no
then-
movie.
No, but have them have their fight there. Corey comes down and takes the mask at that point.
Oh,
Goes on a
okay.
killing spree. Lori is convinced that it's still Michael out there, that they didn't actually kill him. Don't burn his body. Don't shred him up like they did, or whatever the case. Michael disappears. Michael goes up the stairs. Michael goes up the stairs. Same as in the final version. Lori shoots him. He falls down the stairs again, in front of Allison. Her and Allison are talking about it, and they go into the kitchen to call the police or whatever. And when they come back, the body's gone.
Nice. Yeah.
You could pay tribute to '78, full
Right.
circle,
Right.
or something. It would need work, but there's ways that you could have done it to bring the story full circle and actually pay real tribute to what you were wanting to do in the first place, or which is what they were wanting to do in the first place. Do
Yeah.
something that honored the original.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, what I personally feel like this trilogy does really well is it really sort of elevates. Oh God, I'm about to say fucking elevated horror, but like the Halloween movies after 2 and after 3, right? They just sort of seem kind of corny and more like B movies. They don't seem as good as Halloween 1 and 2, and then 3 is like its own thing, right? This trilogy, it takes itself very seriously, and sometimes I feel like the message, I don't really understand the message they're trying to get across, but I do feel like it's like very well done, and it looks beautiful too. I think that we all kind of enjoyed like the violence in it, as depraved as that sounds. I mean, Daniel, you said that it had some good kills in it. I was thinking like we could kind of go around and talk about which kills you liked, and I'm assuming that everyone kind of likes the little boy just bouncing his head off the fucking floor as he falls, or am I just a sick fuck? I'm sorry, Daniel. What were your favorite kills, man? Tell me.
Probably the scissors on the tongue. It was
Yeah.
it was just kind of like, it was unexpected and grisly enough. Yeah, but then I went and saw the Terrifier 2 the next day, and I'm like, I can't even remember anything that happened in Halloween again. Like, so, because you want to talk about kills.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. How many people here have seen Terrifier 2 at this point?
Not the second one.
Okay.
I-
Yeah, Dan, go ahead.
Am I out of? Am I complete with the two guys who have seen it, Daniel and Josh? Am I completely off base by saying I think I like Terrifier 2 more than both of the movies we're talking about today?
Oh, totally.
No, I agree
100%.
100%.
I was so shocked at how much I enjoyed the hell out of that movie for all 2 hours and 20 minutes of it.
I was like, this is going to be exhausting. It's going to be like 2.5 hours of masochism, and I'm just going to be like, whatever. But it had more of a sense of humor than the first one to really balance it out, kind of like. And I think it had a little bit more of that sort of like dreamy Freddy Krueger from the 80s sort of charm to it, so that it didn't feel quite as it has a stronger main character, so you feel a little more anchored into the fact that there's somebody to root for, as opposed to everybody just being a prop for sadistic clown guy.
I'd go so far as to say, I mean, I made my daughter watch Your Next with me a couple nights ago because I was so into the final girl from Terrifier 2 that I was like, I think she might be the best final girl I've seen in the last 20 years. And then I went back and I watched Your Next, and I was like, I don't know, it's close. Erin was really cool in that movie. She killed a guy with a blender. So,
well, in terms of final girl, I still got to give the edge to Your Next, because I mean, Your Next is just fantastic. But I think like Terrifier 2, the way it like openly embraces just like supernatural, almost fantasy elements mixed in with everything else, and just is like, we're gonna do anything crazy that we possibly can in this 2.5 hour runtime. We're gonna have a 15-minute dream sequence that might actually be an alternate clown dimension, you find out later. Like, it's just like it was just really like fun, and I don't know, it had that soundtrack where it kind of just sort of like that kind of like Drive, like like Ryan Gosling Drive, that like Real Heroes song. Like a couple of those songs sort of had that like
it's kind of like new wave.
It kind of opened up that like nostalgia factor where it's like we're going back to a time where like things are all practical effects, and like the camp is charming, and I don't know, it was. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. I'm kind of surprised, honestly.
What the fuck are we talking about Halloween Ends for then? No, honestly though, like for Halloween Ends, it's like I liked parts of it, and I like that they tried to do something different. But I have to say that like I wasn't really invested in Laurie Strode. Like Josh, you made a really great point before where you said that like you felt like this version of Laurie Strode doesn't kind of sync up with the Laurie Strode from the original 1978 Halloween. And I think that like Laurie Strode, even in H2O, is sort of like more fun, and I care more about her. And when Michael comes back into her life, I feel worse for her than in this trilogy. And I feel like she's kind of inconsistent between Halloween 2018 and this movie too. It's like, okay, so you're gonna just become a suburban mom, and then she has this really fucking weird line where she's like, "We're gonna take out our tits and show fear" or something. Remember that fucking line when she burns the pumpkin pie? I was like, what the hell's even going on? But I'm all over the place because I'm excited that you guys like Terrifier. But I was gonna say, as far as the kills go, we got the little boy falling, and then we got the guy getting his tongue cut off. Did you guys like any other gruesome? Oh, there was just some crazy shit in the junkyard. Any fans of that out there?
Yeah, the junkyard scene as a whole is probably my favorite segment of the film.
Yeah.
But you can definitely tell between all the trailer footage and all of that, you can tell that they left a lot on the cutting room floor, because those kills, I mean, they happened so quick. They had to have cut some stuff away from it. And maybe it was David's way of trying to go back to the more bloodless style of, the original. But if he was going to do that, he should have done that from the beginning. Halloween 2018, we've got the bloody teeth, we've got the carved jack-o'-lantern face, we've got, kills. The chick, Sandra, that shows up in Ends, she should not have been alive.
Oh,
There's no way that she would have survived what happened. She would have bled out before she even got the chance to watch her husband get pinned like a pincushion to the kitchen island, for one.
yeah.
So how she survived, I have no idea, but maybe she's got a little bit of Michael in her or something, because she survived a lot.
We're talking about a series where Michael gets like shot and stabbed 16 times, but then where he cuts his wrist and he dies.
So,
Right.
To be fair, he was like 70 in this movie.
Yeah, he's 70 years old. He could take on 20 people, including Anthony Michael Hall and a woman with a fucking iron. Okay. But yet, this movie, he's all decrepit and aged, walking like he's had a stroke until he kills the cop with Corey.
Didn't it feel like
he dies at the hands of one old lady?
it kind of felt like he was doing they treated Michael Myers in this movie like Batman in The Dark Knight Rises, where all of a sudden at the beginning of the movie, Batman's like a crippled old man who like has to like reinforce his back in order to just like operate, and like Bruce Wayne is walking with canes. You're like, wait a minute, didn't the last movie happen like a year ago? What happened?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a question and maybe this is a good way to wrap up the Halloween Ends part of this, but why don't we go around, like, this is supposedly, at least until 10 years from now when they do another reimagining, the end of the trilogy. We've talked about the other two movies, so why don't we just say favorite part of the whole trilogy from 2018 to Ends, or if you want to go with your least favorite part, like the scene that just stuck out to you the most of the whole trilogy. So we go Megan, Josh, Daniel, in that order. I don't know.
Sure. Go ahead, Megan. Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed in the first of the trilogy, the gas station bathroom, where he kills the reporter and his girlfriend. It was really gritty, and I really enjoyed that scene.
That's a really good answer. Yeah. Josh, what about you, man?
Mine would also be from 2018. It would be the sequence where he's going house to house.
Yes.
The start of his murder spree.
That's a good answer too. Yeah. Daniel, what about you?
I think there's one in like Halloween 2018 when he puts like somebody's head to a cutting board and just like sticks the knife to the guy's head or something. I don't remember. Or he does it the other way around. He puts the knife down and then he like puts the guy's head on it. I thought that was pretty cool. I have a hard time not just seeing like a lot of like missed potential with this trilogy. I just don't have like I don't know. I mean, it just didn't do much for me.
No, it's good. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I think I'm along with Josh, that like 3.5 to 4 minute long cut in like unedited cut in 2018 where he just shows up down the alley, kills the old woman, goes through the house, goes down the second alley, kills the woman. It just fantastic shot. And even though Laurie was definitely Sarah Connor, I did love if 2018 was a standalone movie, I think I would have really enjoyed the ending. If it was a standalone movie, to me, ending it that way only for it to start a trilogy didn't really make sense. It felt like a good homage to the original Halloween 2 with Michael burning up at the end, and they did all the throwbacks of like, but they reversed the roles, so Laurie gets thrown off and then her body disappears. I thought that was very clever. She shows up out of the darkness the way he did in the first one. If they would have ended it there, I would have been cool with it. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I feel very, very similar to you, Danny. I was like, if we just ended with 2018, I think it'd be okay. And I mean, they call these legacy sequels, right? Where there's essentially like 20 years after the movies that we really love. And I feel like every legacy sequel trilogy that I've seen, I ultimately kind of have the same feeling where I'm like, oh, that part's kind of fun. But then for the most part, I'm like, why did we do this? And it actually just has made the lives worse of all the characters, whether it's the Star Wars sequel trilogy or, I mean, Blade Runner 2049 is kind of an exception. I think that's actually good, and that's a good sequel. There's like 18 fucking versions of this that I can't even think of off the top of my head, but like the Jurassic World and stuff like that. You know, it's just kind of like, okay, I get what you're doing. I know you're wanting to make money, but it's like, why? What's so interesting? And I think that might be a good segue into our next movie, which is they've decided to reboot Hellraiser. And Danny's showing his shirt over there with, I'm assuming, the original Pinhead on your shirt.
Yeah, it's actually a Hellbound Hellraiser 2 Japanese print. I don't know. I found it online somewhere.
Yeah. So the other day, Daniel, when he was on Twitter, he was like, does anyone want to watch this movie? You know, I'm going to watch this movie soon. And I was like, sure, that sounds cool. And you don't know me. I'm kind of a weird person, you know. And so I reached out to him. I said I would watch it. And he gave some really great feedback. So, Daniel, I was going to start with you this time around. Yeah. You enjoyed Hellraiser 2022, right?
Yeah, you know, I kind of think that my liking of the movie has sort of declined the further I've gone away from it.
Yeah.
I really like the new Cenobites, and I like the new Hellraiser. I thought that, or the new Pinhead. I thought that they'd like just nothing but really good things to say about that. I liked that they seem to try to bring back something of a punk element, like a little bit of counterculture thing with the whole like addicts playing with the box, drug addiction side, because I find that modern splatterpunk is too often just splatter and like missing the counterculture elements that define what like I think true splatterpunk is, you know, as opposed to just extreme horror. I think that there's a lot of commendable things. The van sequence is the best sequence in the movie, but it's also kind of is the part of the it sort of is the counterpoint to the stuff I don't like about the movie, or one of the big things, which was the third act where like the guy, we're talking, the Cenobites are able to like multi-dimensionally abduct somebody from the back of a moving van, but then like, a couple wrought iron bars gates, and they're like, we're trapped, and now we can only just talk to you forebodingly from the other side of this for indefinitely because you're rich or something. I don't know. So that was it has a lot of strong points, I think. I ultimately liked it more than Halloween Ends, and I think there's stuff to play with here. I even some of the wrinkles that I didn't necessarily like. I really love the thing about the original Hellraiser that I really, really love is how kind of magical genie fair the Cenobites are, which is to say there's this like rule that, because it really has to be about you in the pursuit of something beyond what we should be pursuing, getting like more than we bargained for with their arrival in the puzzle box. So the whole, we're going to wrinkle that so that now like you can sort of solve the puzzle box, but then poke somebody else and somebody else is on the hook. Right. So like that feels to me like a kind of a betrayal of like a core thing about what makes the narrative like makes them scary but interesting, but also kind of like evil neutral or whatever. In any case, a lot of thoughts. I rambled. I'm sorry.
No, I think some excellent thoughts there, though. I had admitted to you that I had actually never seen the original Hellraiser, and I also admitted that I have never read the Hellbound Heart. Now, Megan and Josh, you guys are both in my writers group. I was wondering, have either of you guys read the Hellbound Heart?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so here's my first question: Hellraiser 1987, this Hellraiser, are which one is closer to the Hellbound Heart?
The original.
The original.
The original. This one had really this one just borrowed the world, and the concept. It
Yeah.
doesn't have anything to do with the novella.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so then for
if
you
you-
guys, go ahead, Josh.
I was just gonna say, if you read the novella, I mean, while you're reading it, you're gonna picture the original movie, but you've never seen the original movie. If
I
you
just
watch
watched
that
it
is
this weekend.
literally okay. So then the story about Julia killing all these people to bring back Frank and all of that is the novella.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
The
The
movie
only-
The
really
Cenobite
just
is different.
expanded on it. Like the movie was actually more in depth than the novella was. But of course, I guess with
Yeah.
Clive Barker at the helm, he could do that.
Yeah.
But
Oh man.
I-
So go
I
ahead,
think
Danny.
my opinion of this movie can be summed up very simply with Clive Barker wrote the novella. He directed the 1987 movie, and he did it in 90 minutes. And this movie was 2 hours. Why would this movie be longer than the movie Clive Barker directed 35 years ago when he's taking his own work? And I agree with some of the points Daniel made. I don't think there was nothing about this movie that was bad. There was nothing about this movie that was bad, but the movie ended and I just felt to myself, well, that exists. And if there's a sequel to it, I'll probably watch it because I'm a horror movie fan. But for nothing was pulling at me from this movie. There were no chains. There were no metaphorical chains that were pulling to the point where I put this movie on. I don't even remember which day it was. It was either I think it was Saturday night, and I struggled. I was like falling asleep, and I had to go. I put it on Saturday afternoon. I was falling asleep in the middle. I had to go somewhere, and I left with like 17 minutes left in the movie. And I got home and I like rewound it a little bit to watch the last 25 minutes. But like, if you walk out of your house with 17 minutes left in a movie, it just didn't grab you enough. You know what I mean? Like, so like, I thought the Cenobites were really cool, but like, you know, you guys mentioned the novella. It's the main characters of the novella and of the first movie are Julia and Frank. And it was because Pinhead got so much, you know, he became so popular and he became part of the culture that he effectively took over as the villain. But they are the villains, and she especially. My favorite of the original movies is part 2. And I thought this movie did a decent job of trying to like kind of combine Hellraisers 1 and 2 with the Leviathan stuff, but they never took it to that next degree. So I don't know. Like I said, I'd be down for more of these, but and I didn't hate it. I think Bruckner's a really good filmmaker. But after The Ritual and The Night House, I think this is a very distant third on his like best films.
Mhm.
Sorry about that. My daughter was locked out of my house. Did I miss something? What were you guys all just talking about?
Just
Busta Rhymes in Halloween Resurrection.
Oh yeah, that would have made it better.
No, I think I could just sum it up by saying I think nothing really stuck out to me as amazing about this movie. It was just fine. It exists and it's fine. But like, if I think of Hellraiser, if I want to watch Hellraiser, I'm going to go back and watch the original and Hellraiser 2, probably back to back, and that'll be my Hellraiser enjoyment.
Yeah. Megan, I was going to ask you: are you a fan of what's his name? Ruckner's the director, right? David Ruckner. He did like The Night House and he did The Ritual. Do you like those movies?
yes.
Yeah. Do you like this movie better than those two, or how do you feel as far
Oh no, I would say The Ritual, Not House. If you were doing the 3, that would be my order probably.
Okay. Josh, what about you? Do you like his movies too, or no?
Yeah, I haven't seen The Night House yet, but I have seen The Ritual and I've seen Hellraiser 2022. I enjoyed both of them. Hellraiser 2022, my only real complaint is that it was too clean. When you watch the original Hellraiser, there is a nasty grittiness to it. Like you want to get a tetanus shot just watching it, right?
Yeah.
This
Yes.
one, it felt too clean. The Cenobites, while I love the idea of them wearing their own flesh as their vestments,
Yeah.
there's just something about blood-stained black leather that's interwoven with your flesh that's much more horrifying to look at than flesh. You know, um, and there just certain element like in 2022 Hellraiser when the guy gets his skin ripped off, not Voight at the very end, but the Trevor character, the guy who was helping Voight when he gets wrapped
Yeah.
up by the Cenobite with the wire,
Yeah.
that was kind of closer to what I was hoping for more of in this movie, and they just ultimately didn't deliver on the visceralness of it. And I felt that turning the guy into the Cenobite at the very end, it just didn't look as visceral, or it didn't look painful. Whereas when you watch Doug Bradley's character of Elliot Spencer getting the nails driven into his skull, you feel that in Hellbound. You know, um, there. I enjoyed Halloween 2022 or Hellraiser 2022. I did
Yeah.
enjoy it. It was just too sterile, too clean, you know, and the story focuses around addicts.
Yeah.
It should be nasty. It should be grungy. These are people that share needles, things like that. When you're that far gone, you should really play into that aspect of it.
Yeah.
That's my
Really good
opinion.
point.
I mean, Hellraiser 1987 starts, to back that point up about like just the dirtiness of it. When Frank gets ripped up at the beginning, one of the first scenes you see in the movie is like that spinning post of body parts, and his penis is nailed to the fucking wall as it's spinning.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then the movie ends with one of the greatest moments in horror history. Jesus wept as he's just getting every part of his body ripped apart. And I kept waiting for that visceral moment in this movie, and it just kept it's really weird. And maybe this goes back to what to Daniel bringing up Terrifier 2, but when Terrifier 2 exists, and then it's bloodier and more disgusting than Hellraiser, it really makes Hellraiser feel clean and safe when it shouldn't. And I didn't even think about that while I was watching it, but I did see Terrifier 2 before that. So maybe that was like a subconscious thing.
Yeah. Man, you guys are making me really want to watch freaking Terrifier. It was weird. Like, I was at my job today. I work at a school, and this kid is like, "Have you seen Terrifier 2?" And the kid is like in elementary school. And I was like, shit, I don't think this kid should be watching this,
No, he shouldn't be watching that.
No, not at all.
And so he gave me a lot of spoilers about it too. I haven't seen the first one, so I was like, oh shit. But well, I was gonna say that like one of the things that always bothered me about Hellraiser, I think that I was catching one of the sequels on HBO late one night, and I was like, oh, maybe there's some naked women in this. I got all excited, right? And there was one, but then she just got her skin like ripped right off right away. And and then someone I think was like cooking eggs like the next morning in the movie, but their eggs were like really burnt and gross. You know which Hellraiser I'm talking about? Am I just on drugs? Okay. Anyway, if I ever watch a Hellraiser movie, I just can't eat eggs now because it bothers me. I'm like, I can't eat eggs. It's just so gross. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But as far as like the acting and stuff, I think we should talk about like the Cenobites and the main characters. I thought that that the priest, it's Jamie Clayton, Pinhead. I thought that she was great. Daniel, were you satisfied with her?
Yeah, no, I thought that she was tremendous. I mean, like I know Joshua, you talked about them being a little too clean. I agree with that too. I have a friend who on Facebook was like, I just want to get like the Funko Pop dolls of these Hellraisers because they're already so cute, or all these Cenobites because they're already so cute. And you feel like they're already like toy versions of themselves at times in the movie, and in terms of like they're ready to be put on a shelf and like purchased for like that collector's item kind of thing. But
NECA will make a mint with the Ultimate action figures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
but Jamie's performance, nothing but good things to say about her. I thought she was fantastic.
Yeah.
Just-
I think one of my favorite lines is because they have all different cool names too, right? And so the Gasp, I think, is the one that was like played by an Asian actress, right? She was the one that she has that one line that she says to that woman from Succession. She's like, "Save your screams for later,"
Oh.
or something like that. I love that. She sticks that little
yeah,
needle in her.
the best line of the movie that should have gone to the priest went to the side Cenobite. Yeah. That
Well,
would have happened. That line would have killed coming out of Doug Bradley's lips. Just saying.
that is true. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
But Jamie
go ahead.
was amazing.
Yeah. Megan, did you like the Cenobites this time around, or?
I did. I agree that they were a little too. Not quite gritty enough for like a culture that literally, their pleasure is torture and mutilation. They were well put together. So,
Yeah.
but I like them okay.
Yeah. Are you guys fans of like the Hellraiser franchise in general? Like, do you guys like the movies beyond the first two?
Oh yeah,
Beyond the
I
first
even like
two,
some of the
I
bad
still
ones.
think.
So
You like? Is the one that's by Scott Derrickson? Is that one good?
I like it. I think
You
that
like
one's Inferno. It
Oh, okay.
was done by Scott
Is it-
Derrickson.
I think I remember.
Josh, do you know if this is true? Because like I've heard for years that after Part 4, like a bunch of the Hellraiser direct-to-video sequels were standalone movies where they were just like, well, we have this script. Why don't we throw Pinhead into it and market it as a Hellraiser movie? Do you know if that's true?
Yeah, there is some truth to that. So what they did was it was rights issues. So Dimension, they launched their Dimension Extreme wing of their production houses, and they had the rights to Hellraiser. Clive Barker, for the longest time, was trying to get the rights back to Hellraiser. And what happened was the Weinsteins wanted to keep Hellraiser, so they would find a script and then they would doctor that script and turn it into a Hellraiser movie. That's why so many of the films are so different than the others. You got some that are police procedurals. You got one that takes place with like a virtual reality game, I believe. It's like
Hellworld.
Hell
Right?
World, yeah. So, but and then the two most recent ones in the original series, you got Revelations, and then you got Judgment. Both of those were written to be Hellraiser films, and they're the worst written ones out of all of them, in my opinion. But Gary J. Tunnicliffe, who did the makeup effects starting with Hellraiser 3 onward until Judgment, I believe. Yeah, because he also directed Judgment. He stayed with them, and he even confirmed there was a couple of podcasts that he was on that he confirmed that they would just take these scripts and throw Pinhead in it. And that's part of the reason why Doug Bradley won't ever work with Dimension or won't come back to the character unless it is written with that love and respect. Like they were wanting to fit him into this remake in some sort of cameo, like passing the torch sort of way, but he still wasn't comfortable doing it because of the Barker didn't have the rights. And him and Barker go way back. They were doing theater together before the first Hellraiser even came out. So, but yes, there is truth to that. It's sadly.
Yeah. Well,
the same thing happened with the Children of the Corn, because they were both franchises that Dimension owned. And if you notice, if you go back through the times and you watch when a Hellraiser film released, within a year or two, a straight-to-tape Children of the Corn would come out, if not on the same year. They're both on the same rights renewal like structure, and so they would have to pump one of those out like every 2 or 3 years to keep the rights.
Oh man, who owns the rights to the Amityville movies, right? Because they have like Amityville Shark, right, and like Amityville in space too, right? Those
well, I think that's like an Amicus thing.
A what thing?
I don't know who owns the rights to it, but isn't there like a production company? It's like Amicus or something like that. That
Oh,
they'll
Amicus,
put out
yeah.
like instead of Transformers, it'll be like Transmorphers or something like that.
Oh, that's the
Oh,
Asylum.
Like I think a
Isn't that
lot
the
of those
Asylum?
Asylum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Asylum.
Transmorphers.
I know
Yeah.
it started with an A.
Snakes
Yes.
on a train.
Yeah. Well, you know
Yeah.
what, guys? We are coming up on an hour. Unless anyone has any pressing Hellraiser thoughts you want to get out, it kind of sounds like for both movies, it kind of sounds like we liked them for different reasons, but we maybe would have liked them more if they were like the original movies, right? But so, does anyone have anything else they want to say about Hellraiser?
No, but I do want to say, because I know we were talking about it in a positive fashion, like for anybody listening or watching or whatever, like proceed with caution with Terrifier 1 and 2. Like they're not nice movies, and like really just like take some caution there, because you don't see movies like that quite that graphic very often, even
So-
if you look for them.
So maybe don't let your elementary age kid go
Yeah.
see it. Yeah. Well, so at this point in the show, we have guests. We always like to let you guys plug your stuff. Yeah, and I just want to say, just by the way, that it's been a long time since me and Danny have had like a whole bunch of people. I mean, Megan, we had your husband Derek on recently, and Josh, you're on for that too. But it's cool to have like so many people in one shot talk about some movies. So yeah, why don't we just go around and everyone, if you all want to plug, like Daniel, where can people find your stuff?
My stuff's on Amazon. Author the Nightmareland Chronicles. I got some standalone books as well too. But yeah, all there. Find me on Twitter, DBH Fiction,
Nice.
or
Yeah.
just type my name.
All right, thank you, Josh.
Well, I've got, let's see, on October 28th, I am releasing my next novella. It's called The Death House. It's like a grindhousey, not like extreme horror or splatterpunk, but it's more like grindhouse horror, pulp horror. You can pick up my debut novel, The Best of Intentions, on Amazon, and paperback, Kindle, ebook. It's on Kindle Unlimited, or it's in audiobook as well. And then I have some short stories and a couple different anthologies that are all available on Amazon. You can follow me. Just search my name. I'm easy to find.
Nice, thank you, Megan. What about you?
Most of my stuff is on Amazon. You can get signed books from me at
Hello?
meganstocktonbooks.com. Did Josh freeze?
Oh,
no,
no,
he's
he's
back. And I'm in a couple of anthologies. They're all listed on my website as well, and I'm on all the social media platforms. I have a novel coming out in December called And Nobody Knows It But Me, and then Blue Jay is coming out with DNT Publishing in March.
Awesome.
Congrats.
Yeah, it's so good to know so many cool writers. And then for our last cast, we're going to plug the shit out of ourselves too. Danny, you were much better at that than I am. Go ahead, take it away.
Oh God, 101 scariest horror movie moments on Shudder. Pete and I review that every Wednesday at about 5:00. Also Wednesday nights, I review Chucky season 2. I'm reviewing Shudder's Queer for Fear, which comes out on Friday. New episodes every Friday. It's October, so we're just posting horror movie reviews and horror movie talks whenever we get together. This has been great. I'm looking forward to talking about more horror movies with some of you people again. It'll be great. It was nice to meet. It was nice to meet some of you for the first time. And Josh, we did one before, so thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And like I said before, I interviewed Megan like 2 weeks ago at this point, and that interview is going up on our channel this week too. And then I have an interview with Josh coming up in a couple of days. So real fucking busy on the Lastercast. But thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll talk to y'all real soon.